Welcome back. We're talking today about the influence and impact that social media commentary has on companies, their perception, and whether it all really matters and hits the bottom line. At the end of the day, that's the big question, isn't it? So, I'm referring to two incidents which have taken place just in the past 24 hours or so. The first is relating to Fab India, an Indian brand that sells ethnic clothing. They put out an ad where they talked about their new collection as being called Jashn-e-Riwaz. Some social media users objected to it, says it is removing the Hinduification of a festival like Diwali. There was a lot of trolling. Ultimately, the company has withdrawn the ad and now put out a statement saying this wasn't their Diwali collection, it was some other collection. They have another Diwali collection coming out which will be appropriately named. Now, another incident we've seen in the last 24 hours relates to a company called Zomato. It seems that one of their users called up the helpline and spoke to a customer care executive about some order that was misplaced. And a heated argument followed when the customer care representative said that the person should speak in Hindi as it's the national language. The customer happened to be in Tamil Nadu and shared a screenshot of this conversation with people on social media. It escalated into a huge language war, Hindi versus Tamil, North versus South kind of a situation. Zomato stepped in, first fired that customer care executive, then reinstated him. Dipinder Goyal, the founder, put out a statement in which he said India needs more tolerance and more chill. So, two different instances, two different ways of handling the backlash that followed, and in no way are these unique. A lot of this has been happening. Any major company sees a barrage of complaints online every day. Either people are unhappy with the service or they feel that their ads don't have the right messaging. It could be anything that peeves you off. The question is, how do you respond to this? So to speak on this, I'm joined today by Anuja Chauhan, who's an author and of course an expert in the world of advertising. Amit Tuli, founder of Studio Unnis, with us on the show today. Nisha Singhania, co-founder of Infectious Advertising, also speaking with us. Welcome to all of you. Anuja, I'd like to start by getting your view on what you're seeing. Now, should companies think of this before they put the ads out? Are companies beginning to see this from the lens of, hey, how will this fare on social media? Suppose someone has a problem with what we say. Or have we come to a situation where there is a very low tolerance threshold? Someone is peeved with something all the time.
Yeah, I sort of think it's the latter because, for example, if you look at the Tanishq ad that came out last year, which showed an interfaith marriage and the way a Hindu household had sort of accepted their Muslim daughter-in-law, that was an ad to which they could have expected backlash and they could have prepared for it and said, okay, we are putting this out, this could be controversial and, we should have answers ready. Now, something like Jashn-e-Riwaz is so left field, like who would have even thought that someone would object to that? So that kind of thing just comes and hits you, and it's a case of people just wanting to be offended all the time and just creating this stuff. And so I don't think that is something you could prep for, because no matter what you do, someone wants to be offended, they will be offended. And I think the person in question, the MP from Bangalore South, is clearly somebody who is wanting to be offended, and then there's no way you can really prep for that. So that's what I think, that there are certain things you can anticipate and certain things you can't.
Well, what should companies do, and does it really matter? At the end of the day, if we look at the cancel culture, it's sweeping the world. Right now in India, we're seeing a particular strain where people are sometimes offended by something which shows interfaith harmony or, things like that. Then there are people who are offended with the kind of service they receive. We gave you the Zomato example. My question, Amit Tuli, is, first of all, how much effort does it take to... I'll come back to you, Anuja. I'll come back to you. My question to you, Amit, is how much effort does it really take to trend a hashtag of boycott XYZ? Some company, some actor, some movie, some whatever. Is it really difficult to trend this hashtag? Because I'm understanding whether it's truly representative of the kind of customer base the company is trying to reach out to.
To answer that question from a very digital perspective, trends are real time now. So it's not trending if it's not real time. So trends keep on changing. And because there are so many trends that happen on a daily basis and on an hourly basis, it is definitely easy. It is commerce driven, and you could pay to get anything trended. And we have seen from the hashtags that are trending on social media, many of them do not even have the cat influencers that we feel that would drive sentiments. The sentiments are driven by the number of tweets, the number of posts, the number of hashtags, and the number, basically, even spam can trend today. So that is something that it's not very difficult. However, what we have seen in the past 1 year or 2 years, ever since lockdown, e-commerce has seen a tremendous boom. It has replaced the traditional way that we shop. It has replaced the traditional way we consume our news. It has replaced the traditional way we interact. So every particular campaign, whether it's an advertising campaign, whether it's a launch, now needs sentiment analysis, and emotion mapping. Like, it would be very immature for us to believe that an ad campaign is being designed without keeping sentiment analysis and emotion mapping in loop. So if you're already targeting to your key demographics and in a festival area, and you're looking to make sure that your content, your product is being talked about, you do the sentiment analysis, you come out with a campaign that works in terms of the way it's going to be amplified. And no publicity is bad publicity is many brands' mantra, and controversies do create chatter. And some of the trends do eventually help. Like, we won't be having this discussion if that particular controversy wouldn't have happened. We've had an ex-cricketer, we have had a cricketer yesterday being targeted with a very derogatory campaign. And that has got, we need emotional analysis to tilt in our favor. We know that there is a certain section on social media which will always troll, which will always have issues with your product, with your thought. Then you need people who would defend it. And those defenders turn into consumers, believe it or not.
So you're saying this actually helps. Nisha Singhania, so you're saying it doesn't necessarily harm the bottom line, it can help as well. Then should brands stand up when they've come out with a certain campaign? Like Amit said, a sentiment analysis has been done. There's obviously a marketing team behind it. Some thought has gone into it, especially as far as big brands are concerned. And then there's some backlash. Why then do we see so many brands withdrawing their campaign?
So my sense of this is, I don't think, like Anuja said, they anticipated trouble with this kind of a campaign, because it was not something that one would assume would have a backlash. Yeah. The other is that I think it's really important for brands to post something like this happen. Look at the audiences on who are the ones who are objecting to it, and are they really their target audience? And if they are really their target audience, then probably they need to withdraw or do something about it. But if they're not their target audience, and the bulk of the target audience is in favor of what they have done, then probably they need to stick to their guns and stand for what they believe in, because that's going to go far. It's going to work really well for them with the fans. The fans would want the brand to stand for what it believes in. So I don't think a knee-jerk reaction of pulling out the ad, is a good idea. Yeah. And in the case of what has just happened, while Fab India has pulled it out, but I really liked what Zomato did. The knee-jerk reaction was to sack the employee, but they went back and they retained the employee, and they said, hey, he's a young person, she's a young girl, and she made a mistake, and young people make mistakes, and maybe proper training can get her to rectify the situation. So why are we being like, why is punishment the only way out? Why do we have to we judge, we then want punishment, we want closure? There's so much of hate.
I would actually like to add to what Nisha has been saying. See, sensitivity question vis-a-vis how it grows, vis-a-vis how a brand is mature. Example, like a legacy brand, they have been trolled, but they have largely stuck to their grounds. Amul ads routinely are being questioned. Zomato has encountered such incidents, with the delivery people, whether it's a refusal of a different religion delivery person, assault charges. They've taken those controversies head on and they played to their gallery and avoided knee-jerk reaction. And of course, there are legitimate concerns as well. Before the rise of social media, brands like Fair and Lovely faced less criticism. Over time, consumers also realized fair skin is no measure for success, and the advent of social media campaigns against color bias gained prominence. So it forced the brands to change their strategies, even rebranding, if I may say. They forced them to, rethink their strategies, rethink their brand names. So brands now need to be cognizant where they're maybe towing a wrong line in terms of cultural sensitivity, and also not following the inclusion and diversity standards that possibly people are seeking. But they have to play to their what their target group is. They have to even play
No,
to.
but my question is a little different. My, sure, but my question is a little different. Let me come back to Anuja here. How do we know that these trends, hashtag boycott something or hashtag cancel something, is truly representative? I mean, if I take a medium just like Twitter, for example, less than point something of the population of India, less than 1% for sure, is even on Twitter. Social media and the representation of social media is not India. It is not the consumer base for a large number of these companies. So then why are they so scared by something that's trending for a little while? Do you think it's truly representing, or it's giving them a chance to figure out what their customers want, or they just don't want the controversy?
I think if you take the Fab India case, the brand that we are talking about right now is has really nicely won the day in the Fab India Day, which is the RSS Tejasvi Surya brand. Okay, he is looking like this big badass guy who said take it down, and Fab India took it down. So he has won that particular brand war. His fans are very happy with it. For him, it's a huge win. It just makes him look good. Whereas Fab India, its core audience, the fans of Fab India, Lutyens type and Fab India type are not very differentiated. The kind of people who buy Fab India, and it's not just, clothes, like you said, it's also carpets, it's curtains, it is artifacts, it's that kind of a brand, and I don't think that their fan base is going to be very happy with this call that they've taken, caving in so quickly and apologizing and, crawling when they've been asked to bend. Frankly, I'm a Fab India consumer and I'm quite disappointed. So I don't think it was representative. Like you said, Twitter can make one panicky. If you're a marketing person, you're trolling Twitter late at night and feeling needy because you just released a new ad and you see that knee-jerk hate coming up, you can do something, in the heat of the moment and, with like the fog of war and so on, which if you had a little more, if you thought about it a little more carefully, you would not need to do, because eventually brands are also like people, we personify brands, and a person that you respect is someone who sticks to his guns, who's cool and connected. Fab India is 60 years old. They did not need to do this. They've earned their stripes. They are a solid Indian brand for a certain segment of people. So I think that Twitter, as you correctly say, is not that representative, and they should not have caved in like this, for sure.
I would like to differ on one thing, with Anuja over
Social
here.
media, I'm not sure how representative it is. No, Amit, I'm coming to you. I know you want to come in. Make your point, but I want to add another question to that. Do you think this kind of a trend that we're seeing is leading to some amount of self-censorship before any campaigns are released? You talked about a sentiment analysis. Does this include things like, let's not go there, it's going to be touchy. Let's not say this, it might, make people angry and make us trend for all the wrong reasons. Is that element of self-censorship coming into the creative process?
Before I answer this question, I would like to point out one very important aspect that sometimes gets missed out. Indian internet has a huge class divide. One must not ignore that. There is a strata of Indian society that just has gotten access to internet very recently. I think we all must agree to one point. Indian internet, or internet in India, is one of the fastest in the world, and definitely, if not the most cheapest, one of the cheapest in the world. So access to internet has been very fast. It did not have the time to evolve, and hence it has created a class divide. Now, when you are looking at different kinds of social media, there are different kinds of people there. So when we do sentiment analysis for any launch or any particular product or any particular film to be put out on the public platform for consumption or for any kind of backlash or amplification, we do take this class divide into question. Who are we targeting? How are we targeting? How much in public domain we would be? Like a Fab India is a premium brand for 90% of our Indian population. Now, 60% of that population is on social media. The class divide do come in the debates, do come in the trolling, and negativity, it sort of spreads more faster. It has the language of the masses, and it will have the wit and the fun that a normal chai stall charcha would inculcate. So that has sort of replaced serious consumers. We are always now talking in numbers. We have huge numbers. It works for us. It, also our message gets lost in the kind of campaigns that we run. So when we are doing the emotion mapping, when we are targeting the demographics, we try and put it out on social media mediums at opportune times where we feel that our targets are online, using the keywords that they or the hashtags that they would use more. And when we are faced with criticism, or when brands get faced with criticism, at that point in time, they need to tackle the misinformation, they need to tackle the ambiguity at their end. Because unfortunately, sometimes belief is not an official reality. Case in point, the whole Zomato.
But one last point from Nisha, because I have to end. Yeah, I have to end. I want to hear Nisha on this one last point. Sorry, I mean to cut you short, but I need to wrap up, and I want one last point from Nisha to the question I asked. Do you think this trend of people pointing fingers at you so easily on social media will lead to some amount of self-censorship in the creative process? You're cutting out themes in advance because you're saying, hey, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yes, I agree. It does that. Unfortunate, but true. We are a country in the late 70s which had a blockbuster Amar Akbar Anthony, and it was celebrated. Religious diversity and, different religions coming together was really celebrated. Today, any brand, if they try and do anything with religion, they will, first reminder to them is going to be what happened to Tanishq. And they're going to try and steer clear of that. So unfortunately, yes, self-censorship has come in. It's sad, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. We'll have to wrap here. And I think one important takeaway, people will say what people will say. They may have different motives to pick on a brand, a campaign, an individual who's working, say, in a customer care support line. The question is, how do the brands, the companies and their founders respond? They are also social beings. They also have a standing and a belief system. So how they respond, I think, becomes more important than what people are saying about them. With that, I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening on the India Development Debate. I'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place.